Alrighty, welcome back. This is Taylor Limsky with Around the Diamond. Joining me today, we have our very own Chuck Taylor. Chuck, how you doing, man?
Pretty good. How are you?
Hey, can't complain, man. Good Sunday. Could have been a better day in baseball today, but, something we can definitely talk to you about. I want to go ahead and dive right into it. You get started. A few questions that I kind of want to center this around is going to be, obviously, our Texas Rangers. And I just have some few questions I kind of want to bounce off you, see what ideas that you have with this, and just kind of get your overall opinion. And we'll kind of start very high level here. And it's going to be either just the Rangers themselves. Are we buying or selling at this point? We are sitting at, I believe it's 43 and 45 on the season. So just kind of give me your take on that real quick.
Well, I'll say that's a pretty loaded question. We're getting here close to the All-Star break, or we're at the All-Star break now, technically. Right here near the middle of July, and it's that time of year where teams are thinking about that. And as far as the Rangers are concerned, we're 2 games under. We're kind of right in that wild card hunt in the American League, but there's a few glaring issues that have pushed me in the direction of the sell method. And I'll walk through those with you now. So the biggest reason I think that the Rangers are in a position to sell is that, unlike in 2015 when we were 8.5 out at the end of August and we came back and had that big comeback and we overtook the Astros and that was a big overtaking for us. This year is going to be completely different because at the end of the year, the Rangers have a laundry list of free agents up at the end of the year due to one-year deals and just contracts expiring. You're talking about Carlos Gomez, Mike Napoli, Tyson Ross, Andrew Kashner, AJ Griffin's up, I think, at the end of next year. Cole Hamels only has another year or 2 on his contract. Beltre, another year on his contract. So a lot of free agents. This team could look completely different at the end of the year. So when you're thinking about maybe justifying a wild card spot, I just don't see it. This team doesn't have much of a bullpen, and we're going to really struggle to compete in the playoffs with the weaknesses we have. And it's going to be really difficult to make trades and improve this team to a level where making a wild card spot is worth it, because we're not catching the Astros. It's just not happening. And, with the level of free agents that we have at the end of the year, we have to cash our chips in while we have them. And, it's just going to be lost assets at the end of the year if we don't take advantage of that now.
Yeah, and I can definitely see where you're coming from on that. And just to kind of hit on that point, we're tied for second in the AL West. We're 16 and a half games back on Houston. Houston's sitting at 60 and 29, so no way we're catching them. So we are looking for the wild card. But you kind of go over to those standings, and everybody's pretty close if you look at it. I mean, we're 3 games back on the wild card, but we've got, the Yankees, the Rays, the Twins, Royals, Angels, us, Mariners, Orioles. We're all pretty tight here. So, I mean, definitely is a possibility that we can sneak in there. But again, who are we going to be facing? We knocking on Houston's door? I mean, I just don't see anything other than the accolade of making it to the postseason where we're going to do anything in the postseason, if that makes sense. And a big part of that is due to our bullpen. And we've had this discussion many times, and that's actually something else I want to bring up that we mentioned previously. The recent acquisition of Jason Grilli. What is JD thinking with that? I mean, this pitcher is 40 years old. He's got some experience as a veteran pitcher, but, I mean, it almost seems like a quick fix for nothing, really. I guess, what do you think on that?
The Jason Grilli move was an interesting one. It's kind of a classic JD move. It's a really, really cheap move, and it's a good move because he was just trying to, Jason Grilli's not meant to come in here and be our savior and be our closer or whatnot. It's really more of a move to employ a little bit of veteran leadership. Jason Grilli's a guy who's been in the league for quite a while now. He's had quite a bit of success throughout his career. And, he's technically a former Ranger, too. He pitched half of the 2009 season with us. So it's really just to bring in that kind of veteran leadership and maybe jumpstart the mental side of the breakdown of what the bullpen has experienced thus far. More so on that than it is for Grilli to come in here and be some kind of savior for us. But it's a cheap move. It didn't cost us anything. And, there's some upside for it. I mean, so far he's got a 0 ERA with us. He's had a few scoreless outings. So, even if it doesn't go right for us, even if it doesn't go perfect, it didn't really cost us anything. So the good move by JD, and, it was an interesting one. Classic JD move.
And that's actually what I was curious about. I didn't know the actual ramifications of the contract, but I mean, if we're looking at a cheap acquisition there, then I definitely see what that's at. I mean, we can use pretty much any assistance in the bullpen at this point, is what it seems like. And I mean, it seems to be a reoccurring problem for years, whether it's the bullpen or it's the starting pitching. I mean, it seems to alternate because, I mean, there's one year that we had a great bullpen, but the starting pitching was terrible, and it just keeps going back and forth. So there's a lot of rocky things. But one thing I do want to touch on, which this year particularly, and I guess the past couple of seasons as well, is what happened with Sam Dyson, the master of the sinker. Basically, looks like two different people from 2016 to 2017. Not too sure what happened with Sam, but, we went ahead and we gave him the shot, drops out of the closer role, ERA skyrockets, we ended up letting him go. He slides on over to San Fran, and I don't know if you saw this or not, but his first outing was atrocious. I mean, he gave up 3 earned runs without even pitching a full inning at all. I mean, I think that might even be out that he got. Either way, pretty bad, but he looks to kind of be gaining his pace back over there in San Fran. So, of course, we slide down to Matt Bush, the kid who's throwing 98-mile-an-hour fastballs, and you've seen here in the past couple of weeks that Matt Bush was the one who was blowing these late-inning games. I mean, we lost probably, 3 or 4 games in the past 2 weeks from that. And now we're going right back to that closing by committee. And, I don't know how to approach that. I don't know how I feel about that because in the end of the time, I do think Keone Kela, I am a big fan of him. I think he would be suitable for that spot, but kind of walk me through what you're seeing here. I don't know if this is JD or more of a Banny style, but are we going to try to play matchups or what's the approach with this closer by committee?
Well, so what's kind of forced us into this mindset is, like you said, just the total just fall down of Sam Dyson and Matt Bush. But this has been a reoccurring theme for the Rangers. Just off the top of your head, if you could tell me, who is the last real bona fide closer that the Rangers have had?
Joe Nathan, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right, Joe Nathan. So if we're just going back to 2010, our closers have been Neftali Feliz, who was not a closer. We brought him up as a 21, 22-year-old kid, and we said, hey, you're going to close games. And we eventually tried to make him a starter and screwed his career up for a few years. So we had Neftali Feliz. Then we got Joe Nathan, I believe, in the 2012 season. And he pitched 2012 and 2013. Didn't really get a whole lot of postseason experience, unfortunately, because those teams faltered at the end of the year. But after, Joe Nathan was 38 years old when we got him. We couldn't really, that wasn't a long-term fix. So when we got rid of Joe Nathan, we looked to Sean Tollison, another pitcher who had never been a closer before. He was a closer in the minor leagues, but he didn't really have much success or much experience in the major leagues, experienced some injury troubles. And we said, hey, we have an open spot. It's going to be closer by committee, and he won the job, and he got to close games. Well, after a year, he kind of fell off and stopped producing. So then we filled the gap with Sam Dyson, because once Tollison started to vacate that spot, it was open for competition, and Sam Dyson won it. Well, Sam Dyson, although being a veteran, was never a closer in the major leagues. So it's just kind of been the snowball effect of just plugging someone in there, these relievers. And a closer in baseball is a extremely important position that you really can't just plug someone in. It might work for a year and a half, something like that, but it's not a long-term fix. And although Joe Nathan did blow games for us when he pitched for us, he did. The main thing that I'm seeing from these quote-unquote non-closers is when they blow games, they tend to blow 2, 3, 4 games in a row. Whereas Joe Nathan would blow a game, and then he would rebound from that. He'd bounce back from that because he had that closer mentality that is so valuable in the bullpen, where he wasn't going to let things snowball and he wasn't going to let past and previous outings affect him as much. So, we really missed that in the bullpen, and until the Rangers can really find a bona fide closer, you mentioned Keone Kela. I'm really high on Keone Kela too. The kid's got great stuff. But already this year, he started the year in AAA due to some clubhouse issues. I just don't know if the mental side of the game is there for Kela to start. But maybe as he matures and becomes more of a veteran player, maybe he'll grow into that status. But I'll tell you what, the kid's definitely got the stuff to do it. He's got a 95-plus mile-an-hour fastball and a nasty curveball. So if he can figure out the mental side of it, I think Kela can grow up to be a pretty bona fide closer.
Yeah, he's one of my favorites out of the pen, definitely. And kind of going back to what we're talking about there with the Joe Nathan situation. I mean, I remember watching those games, and boy, did he put you on the seat, though. Every single game. I mean, even though he was closing these games out, let's make it interesting. Let's load the bases up real quick and see what happens. Joe usually got us out of it, but he definitely liked to stir the pot a little bit and make people a little antsy. But, yeah, definitely. Definitely understand that, and I guess we'll kind of see what happens here, this committee. I know it's going to be kind of rough going into it. We're heading to the second half of the season here pretty quick. Not too sure what to expect, honestly. I feel like there's a bunch of question marks, kind of. Yeah, I want to say just pitching, but it's almost kind of the whole team, and it kind of switched sides of the ball here. Let's go to the offense. Now this isn't so much as of this current week, but we had plenty of players on the team that were hovering right around the Mendoza line. You got Joey Gallo, you got Mike Napoli. You've got Rougned Odor. Of course, like Jared Hoying, who hasn't had too much. I think he's only played like 24 games. Robinson Trinos has pulled it up lately. I think he's in the 220s. But either way, I mean, we were known for having a pretty stout lineup all the way through as far as the batting average, and especially something you actually talked to me about previously, about Ruby. I mean, Ruby had a great year last year. I mean, batting, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's like 270, 280. He was slugging, gets a nice contract, and then where is he? It's not like he's showing up anymore. I don't know what's happening with the team here with the batting averages. And, slugging percentages are down across the board. You got Elvis leading everybody right now, which is he's been doing a great job this year. But, things just look kind of bleak.
Yeah, it's our offense has been pretty solid all year, but they definitely are inconsistent because they will run into those games where we will get shut out. I mean, look at today, a perfect example. Darvish goes out there and throws a gem, and our offense can't scratch a run out. But as a whole, looking at the entire year, they've been a pretty consistent offense, or a pretty valuable offense, especially for the low batting averages across the board. I don't know how, but they seem to make it work. And I think a big part of it is that we score most of our runs off the home run ball. And when you do that, you don't have to have that many people on base. You're cranking home runs. That's an automatic run. If you're hitting a bunch of singles or doubles, you have to hit those in succession for them to equal runs. Whereas home runs, that's an automatic run no matter if anyone's on base or not. So, that's a big part of it. But yeah, like you said, to your point, we have several guys. Gallo, he's never going to really be an average guy. Napoli, same thing. But even their averages are low. But to your point, Rougned Odor is struggling this year. He got that contract in the off season, and maybe that's what it is. Maybe he just got a little too comfortable going into the year, and he's feeling the effects of that. But we really looked for Rubna to have a career year this year after, the 270, 280 batting average. He cranked the most home runs on the team last year, I think 33, 34. And, you really just felt like this was his breakout year. I think this is his 4th year in the league. So, you really expected, you had high hopes for Ruby. And, he's got a 220 batting average. The home runs are still there. I mean, he's still slugging over 400, but even that has dipped a little bit. And, the on-base percentage, 260, just atrocious. He's been striking out a lot. So, yeah, Ruby's really going to have to pick it up in the second half. Maybe he's just got to wipe the slate clean and come out next year and try again. But, yeah, Ruby, big disappointment so far this year for the Rangers.
Yeah, definitely agree. And that's what I was kind of hoping to see out of him. I was hoping he'd become, one of our young leaders on the team, kind of filling in where Elvis is kind of taking over, But I'm hoping it's just a slump. Maybe it's something to do with the contract. Maybe he just got comfortable. I'm not too sure. But, I mean, we obviously know he's the potential Ruby's got. And I don't think this is who he's going to be. I think it's just a down slump. But I hope he comes back and figures it out. And, lately he's done all right because he was sitting below the Mendoza. I think he's batting 222 as of right now. So, they're getting it up slowly, but definitely be good to see him get back in that 270, 280 form. But that being said, I kind of want to go back behind the plate because I don't know if you remember this, but about a couple of weeks ago, Miguel Montero was basically trash talking some of the pitchers, got designated for assignment, and then we heard something through the air that Lucroy had similar comments, and I know that you probably know a little bit more about that than myself. I kind of want to address not only Lucroy's comments, but it also looks like he might be on the trading block as well.
Yeah, that's true. So first, to just address the comments, a reporter asked Lucroy why his pitch framing ability was much lower this year. I forgot the name of the stat that they used to analyze that, but they basically asked Lucroy why his pitch framing ability was so poor this year as opposed to, the rest of his career. And he basically came out and said that these catchers are only as good as the pitchers that are throwing the ball back to them, that the best pitch framers in the game have better pitchers pitching to them. And it makes it a lot easier to frame pitches. Where, he does have a point. That certainly is true. It just kind of came off a little bad because it sort of seemed like he was throwing his pitchers under the bus a little bit. Didn't really look great when he said it. It's not really something you want to be caught saying about your teammates. I'm not sure if that's the reason why. I think the trade talks were already kind of coming out when that statement came out. And maybe it's reversed. Maybe he said he felt comfortable saying those quotes because he knew that he was on the trade docket. Regardless, that's neither here nor there. The reason why he's on the docket is because our two biggest assets of free agents at the end of the year are Jonathan Lucroy and Yu Darvish. And a big reason why Lucroy is such being talked about so much as a trade target is we already know, we signed Robinson Chirinos to a 1-year deal next year. So what it looks like the Rangers are just backing off on Lucroy and saying, okay, we've got Chirinos for next year. He's going to be our number one in AAA if we don't get somebody else, another veteran to come up, who's been, Nicholas has been solid both in the MLB and in AAA. So yeah, they're trying to shop Lucroy. He's going to get us a pretty decent return. I mean, you're probably looking at maybe one prospect in the top 5 to 7 range of an organization's top prospects, and then maybe another prospect in the 10 to 15, maybe 15 to 20 range. So 2 solid prospects from an organization. And then Darvish, the reason why he might not be talked about, maybe JD knows something we don't. Maybe we're planning on re-signing him next year, or maybe we just want that to be a possibility. Maybe we don't want to just give him away just yet. But yeah, Lucroy and Darvish are definitely our 2 biggest trade assets. And since we already have Chirinos on the 1-year deal next year, I think Lucroy is just expendable at this point.
Yeah. And, I mean, with that, all that being said, I mean, there's definitely some bad limelight on Lucroy, without a doubt. But, I mean, going just back to baseball numbers here, I mean, this is an off season for Lucroy. I mean, numbers are very low compared to what it was previous years. I mean, batting average 250 when he's usually, you know, probably about the same as Odor, probably 280, somewhere around there. On base percentage is pretty low. Slugging's down. I mean, there's a lot of things about Jonathan that, I mean, I'm all about it. I'm all about selling. We need to rebuild this farm system. We need to get some of those prospects in there, start working them. And I'm super comfortable with Chirinos. And I don't know what kind of opinion that is to everybody else, but I mean, you've seen him in the times that he came out in the past couple of weeks. When I think it was a stretch of 15 games, he had like 5 home runs. I mean, the guy's got pop. Of course, we need to raise that batting average just a little bit, but I mean, I'm very comfortable about his defensive ability. Pretty much being number one behind the plate, that doesn't bother me. So, I mean, if we can get these pieces working with Lucroy, great, let's do it. Yu Darvish, on the other hand, you know, like, it depends on the day. Because there's sometimes I'm all like, all right, you know, let's hold him down, let's get this contract going. And other times I'm thinking, like, I mean, this is such a huge trade piece. Like, I wonder what we could get for you. So, I mean, ask me today, ask me tomorrow, buy, sell, you. Kind of teeters back and forth. But I know you're talking about the free agents and how the whole Ranger team can basically look completely different come next year, right? Think about Nat being gone. Gomez. I mean, we kind of touched on the possibilities that could happen. So just imagine losing a lot of these free agents. You bring Gallo first base full time, you know, having obviously Adrian and Elvis, Rugi, Gallo. You throw in Nomar out there in the outfield. Delino DeShields becomes a more everyday piece. You got Shinshu out there in right. I mean, you still have those utility guys. I mean, you got to remember we have Ryan Rua and Drew Robinson. Actually, I think Drew hit a 2-run home run last night, so he's showing some promise too as well. And he's only played, I think, in 3 games this year. So we do have some utility guys that can help bridge that. And when, you know, when they came up to the majors, they've showed themselves. So it gives me some comfort in that aspect. And Jared Horn as well. Excuse me, I forgot about him. So we do have pieces that can fill in. So let's just say hypothetically, JD gets on the YouTube, he listens to this podcast right here, and he's like, man, I think they're right. Let's sell. So we lose all those guys we're talking about. We plug in these utility guys. We go forward for a year or two. What does that look like? I mean, is this like a quick turnaround rebuilding stage, kind of like what you mentioned before with how the Yankees won in 2009 and had a quick turnaround and started competing for the next like 4 or 5 years? I mean, or is this going to be the process? Do we need to start from scratch, kind of go over the whole clubhouse? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, we're certainly hoping for a quick turnaround. And we can do some things to control that. But with some of the trades that we've made in the past few years, especially Lucroy and Jeffress, Cole Hamels, who was the one I was just thinking of? Hamels, Carlos Beltran last year from the Yankees.
Yeah. Yep.
So for some of these big trades, we've kind of unloaded our farm system, and I think we're right now ranked around 21st in the MLB out of 30 MLB teams in farm system. So we're definitely in the last third. Our farm system is definitely depleted. So I think the only way we can have that quick turnaround is if we unload. And we just trade away pretty much anybody. You know, you're going to get a pretty big return for Darvish and Lucroy. You might get a decent return for Gomez and possibly Cashner. And then the real unknowns is kind of Napoli and Tyson Ross. Ross just hasn't pitched enough. There's not enough there that I don't know how many teams would be willing to take that chance on him. And then Napoli has just had an off year. I just don't know what you're going to get for him. So is it worth it? I mean, I guess the best answer is JD's just got to shop around, and I'm sure he's doing that. And I'm sure he's got Darvish on the docket and listening to offers left and right. But I think Darvish, out of all those people, I think Darvish is the one that you want to try to re-sign out of all those people. Lucroy's on the wrong side of 30. He's 31, and he's had his worst career numbers with us. Like you were saying, his batting average is down. You know, I love Lucroy, and it's not so much that I think Chirinos will fill Lucroy's shoes. I think we're definitely going to be downgrading there, but I think Chirinos is fine defensively. The rest of the guys, Cashner and Ross, I really love Tyson Ross as a pitcher, but I think it's just too unknown at this point. If he comes out the second half of the year and finishes strong, like he pitched in 2012, 2013, Tyson Ross, then you definitely want to look at re-signing him. But if he's pitching that way, maybe he's already been traded. So it's a loaded question. The only way we're going to get that turnaround, though, is if we just unload and we get a pretty big return back, because with the state of the farm system right now, we just don't have too many guys major league ready or even that close. You got Ronald Guzman in AAA, who's the first baseman, and then maybe a couple names down there. But, I mean, how ready is a guy like Jurickson Profar or Ryan Rua? We've given them chances. They've had opportunities over the year, and they haven't really performed. So, you know, and how major league ready is Joey Gallo? The guy's hitting 194 with how many? 112 strikeouts?
Yep.
You know, he's got the 21 home runs and 41 RBIs, but is that somebody you want to play 162 games a year for you? So, you know, we've got guys in AAA. I don't know how major league ready they are. So, yeah, we definitely need to boost that farm system, and maybe selling and getting that return and then tanking for the rest of the year, getting that better draft pick next year. Maybe that's the right answer. I'm not sure. We'll just have to wait back and see, but you know, we are going to be a much different team next year, because we're not going to re-sign all these free agents.
Yeah, and you know, there's a lot of things I could talk about with that. Like those big deals we're referring to, Hamels, Beekman, Carlos Beltran, you know, basically depleting the farm system. And I can get into, you know, what is JD thinking, where are we at with that, but, you know, where we got. I mean, we did dominate the AL West, but, I mean, then we go out the way we did. So, anyways, that's a whole other point. But due to the time here, so I just kind of want to take a zoom out from the Rangers real quick. I just want to talk all of baseball and make some way too early predictions if you're down for that with me.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, so obviously you got Houston steamrolling. I think today they even, was it like 19-1 against Toronto? Houston put on a clinic.
Yeah. Yep, 19-1.
That's insane. So, question for you. I guess we can do the whole thing. Like, who are we seeing in the World Series? And second, kind of, you know, since Houston's our next door neighbor here, do we think that this is a train that's going to keep rolling, or do we see some slowdown here in the second half of the season?
Well, as far as the American League, there's one team that won the first half, and that's absolutely the Houston Astros. You look at, they just hit 60 wins. Second team in the MLB behind the Dodgers to hit that 60-win plateau. You know, Boston has 50 wins. That's the second place team, 10 games behind the Astros. So the Astros definitely won the American League in the first half of the year. I think they're in a pretty good way, because they've got that veteran core. They've got the youth, the youthfulness around some of those veterans that they brought in this year. The clubhouse seems to be kicking along well. Keuchel's back to his normal self. So it looks sustainable, and we're forgetting the trade deadline hasn't even started yet. So Houston, they're not known for the big bank, but they definitely still have a very strong farm system, and they could be wheeling and dealing come July 31st. So as good as this team was in the first half, look for them to get even stronger. So that's who won the American League the first half of the year. A team to look out for. Obviously, I talked about Boston being in second place, and I think Boston might make a few deals this year. They still have a a decently strong farm system, even though they unloaded names like Yohan Moncada last year to get Chris Sale. They could definitely get better. My one team to look out for would be the New York Yankees. The Yankees obviously are known every year for their bank, and this year with their extremely deep farm system, the Yankees are in a great position to make some incredible deals this offseason. They're definitely going to want to shore up at least one or two spots of that rotation. Tanaka has just been terrible this year. And, they've got the bullpen back with Chapman and Betances. So look for the Yankees to go out and get at least one, maybe two bona fide starters and, maybe a couple bats too. But the Yankees definitely have the bank and the farm system to make some serious deals come July 31st. Those are my teams to watch. I think Cleveland has caught the right step. They're on the right track going into the All-Star break, and I think they'll definitely win the Central, and I think they'll definitely be in discussion. And as well as they performed in the playoffs last year, I think they've got a shot. But my two teams to watch, I think, in the American League are Houston and the Yankees overall.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Then, are we thinking the Nats and the Dodgers in the National League, given where we're standing right now? Or, the Dodgers look great. I can see them right now going all the way to the World Series, and even compared to Houston, I don't even think Houston can slow them down. What do you think about that?
Flipping over to the National League, I really like the Nationals. I have the past few years. They have had a little bit of playoff struggles. A lot of that stuff has been some injury stuff. Zimmerman hasn't been healthy until this year. Strasburg's been on and off with injuries. So now they've got all those guys healthy. Ryan Zimmerman is returning to his 2012-2011 form, which is great to see. The Dodgers are a scary team. They got some great youth in Alex Wood and Cody Bellinger. They're obviously going into the All-Star break, the best record in the American League. They're going to be a strong contender. For the Central, the Cubs, definitely a huge World Series hangover. Don't really know what's going on in Chicago, but the Brewers are leading that division. Mm-hmm. I'm not really scared of the Brewers if I'm anyone in the National League. My two teams to watch for the National League would probably be the Washington Nationals for sure. The Dodgers, they just haven't proven to me in recent years that they can compete in the playoffs. And I don't know what moves they've really made. They've got some youthful guys coming up, but how good is youth in the playoffs? We really don't know until we can sit back and watch them. So the Dodgers are maybe a little too overrated. They've got a great record, but they've got to prove it to me in the playoffs. If I'm looking for a team to really compete in the playoffs, I'd probably say the Nationals and the Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks with Zach Greinke coming back to form this year, really fulfilling that trade. And with great young guys like Goldschmidt and Pollock, the Diamondbacks are pretty dangerous. So those are probably my two teams to watch in the National League. If we're going World Series predictions too, it really depends on what the Yankees do come July 31st. But I definitely could make a case for Houston. And for the National League side, I'm probably going to stick with the Nationals. I think the Nationals even have a decent enough farm system to even make some more deals. I don't know what they would get, maybe a bullpen piece. But the Nationals are pretty scary. I think a Houston-Washington World Series is very much in the cards, and it'd be exciting to watch because it's been since 2005 for the Astros, and the Nationals haven't been in it for a few years, and they actually haven't won it since moving to D.C. So, it would be an exciting World Series for sure.
All right, fair. I think I'm going to switch a little bit on there because, I understand what you mean there with the postseason experience with Los Angeles. However, I've only watched a handful of their games because I don't watch a whole lot of the national side, but I have caught some of these Dodger games. Obviously, Kershaw has been banging, but, they just look solid. There's so much chemistry there with the team. They've just been rolling through people. So to see that kind of hangover in the postseason, I've got a huge doubt with that. I think they can keep going and power through, but then again, I mean, that's what's the best part about baseball. Playoffs come around, nobody knows what's going to happen. That's what makes it fun to watch. So, but as of right now, I do like the Diamondbacks a lot too. Not worried about the Brewers or really anyone in Central. Nats are great too, but I'm going to go with the Dodgers. I would have a Dodgers and Boston World Series. And the reason I say Boston's been there before. And what I mean by that is you got guys there. There's a lot of veteran experience on that team. There's just some mean sluggers. Like I've got a lot of confidence in Boston, how they've been handling themselves this year. And of course, Houston, 10 games in front of Boston currently. I don't know what's going to happen. I feel like the Houston train will slow down in the second half. Not really anything to prove that. I feel like this has just been a good run for them lately, but I think it will slow down a little bit. I think Boston's going to come up and sneak them. I don't see this young Houston team, flipping a coin from last year, going from, the domination that we had over them, which was, 14 games to 6, I believe is what it was, to almost running the MLB. Quick turnaround, a lot of young guys, and like you mentioned before, they plugged in some veteran players around them, but I don't think they're ready. I think that they'll have that postseason experience, but I think they're going to get shut down if they play Boston. I don't see them getting past that. So, for me, Cleveland Indians are also great, but I'm going to go with Boston and the Dodgers. That's what I'm rolling with for the World Series.
Boston and LA, sure. If the front office execs have anything to do with it, they'll love that series. They get a lot of CB ratings.
Oh yeah, that'd be a good one for us all. But all right, well, Chuck, I appreciate the time today. It's always great talking baseball with you. Glad we covered a lot of things about the Rangers and got our early predictions. So maybe we can make some bets come second half of the season here.
That sounds great to me. It's going to be exciting to see what teams improve come July 31st. We're definitely going to have a podcast or two on that. It'll be exciting because come August 1st, some of these teams could look vastly different and definitely change our minds.
Rolling into the second half of the season, getting to that trade deadline on that hunt for October. Best part about baseball, man.
I agree.
Well, Chuck, again, appreciate the time. Thanks for joining us here. And again, my name is Taylor Linsky, and this has been Around the Diamond.